Josh Hoover didn't make any of the all Big 12 conference teams, and there was 3 of them. So I took a look to see if he was truly a snub or a rightful exclusion. Oh yeah, it's Locked On Horned Frogs. Play my music.
You are Locked On Horned Frogs, your daily podcast on the TCU Horned Frogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, family? I'm Darian Gray, a.k.a. the Mouth of the South, host of your favorite one-stop shop for everything TCU athletics, Monday through Friday. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the Locked On Horned Frogs podcast. Thank you for making this your first listen and making us the #1 sports podcast network in the country. We're all about the all-conference team, and I want you to quietly think to yourself, every single TCU player that you think should have made the all-conference team. All right, cool. All those names that are in your head probably made it except for Josh Hoover. And you know what? I do not think that he was snubbed. At first, if you had asked me 24 hours ago, I would have said, of course. Because when they announced the list, I was going to look to see where Josh Hoover was. Which team did he make it on? Not if he made it. I thought it was a foregone conclusion. Ain't no way you could have told me that Hoover wasn't going to make it. He's one of the most productive quarterbacks, not only in this conference, but in the country. How could he not make it? So, you know me, because I grew up with my dad, right? I grew up both my dad and my mom, but my dad taught this to me. He said, look, if you got a list and you say somebody should be on it or somebody was left off or somebody was snubbed, one of the things he said, he would always press me on. I hated it. But now it keeps me, thinking these days is if you're going to put somebody on, you got to take somebody off. My dad ain't play that top 5 with 10 people thing. He ain't like that. All right. I don't know who I'm taking off for Josh Hoover because honestly, this is a solid list. And I don't even know if Josh Hoover is the next man up. So when I first saw it, I thought, of course, for all of the reasons that I mentioned, but had to do some investigation, had to do my inner Adrian Monk. So let's just call this the Mouth of the South and the all-conference team for those who watched Monk back in the days. But Sawyer Robertson didn't make it either. And that was something that was important to me. That it told me exactly what the Big 12's criteria was, so to speak. The 3 people who made it are Noah Fafita out of Arizona, Brendan Sorsby out of Cincinnati, and then Devin Dampier out of Utah. We're going to look at all of the things that go into this, and then I'm going to go into what has changed or what affects the perception of Josh Hoover, independent of these 3 guys. This is something completely independent of him. But let's go stat for stat. Because at the end of the day, that is what's going to win the argument for Hoover. Stat for stat. Hoover has, and we're going to go with total yards because some of these guys are running threats. I don't feel like separating it, asking you to do math. You may consider passing touchdowns a little bit more valuable. I think that they're all valuable in the age of the do-it-all quarterback, in the age of the dual threat quarterback. So if you're a threat for 500 yards on the legs, I can't just write that off. I can't. Even though I do agree that passing touchdowns and passing yards are typically more important to me. But passing touchdowns don't hold weight over rushing touchdowns for me. Anyway, Hoover, total yards, 34-76. 31 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. Fafita, total yards, 31-12. 29 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. Sorsby, 3380 total yards, 36 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Dampier, 2,867, 29 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. What I must give is 2 pieces of I'll say qualifiers, disclaimers maybe. Fafita is probably my favorite quarterback to watch in this conference. Every time I watch him, and I hate that I don't get to watch more of him or get to just sit down and watch one straight through game of Fafita. But every time I watch him, he passes the eye test. I think I'm higher on him than other people in the conference network, right? So I'm talking about the Big 12 host and everything. But every time I see him, he always make my eyes get a little bit big. He always make me say, ooh. I feel like he's always scrambling around, moving, doing something off platform. He always does something that makes me impressed with his performance. So I'll say that. I did kind of feel like he should have been on this list. I just don't know where, even though his stats are only 3,100. Hoover has all of these guys beat as far as yards go. He has all of these guys beat as far as yards go. He has Fafita. He has Dampier beat as far as touchdowns go. He doesn't have that over Sorsby. One thing I'll say about Dampier is that Dampier also played one less game. Dampier also left in a game. So injuries play a part. But if I had to take anybody off the list, it'd be him. Ooh, you're taking a third-team quarterback off. Sometimes people get penalized for injuries, right? Like sometimes that's just what happens in awards like this. The problem is, what's the argument to say Josh Hoover should have made it above Sawyer Robertson? What's the argument there? Because I get what argument you want to make for Hoover to beat some of these other guys out. But this doesn't include team success, because you go and you look at it. TCU's looking at seventh best scoring offense in the conference. Seventh best. Meanwhile, Utah's number 2. A lot of that's off the back of Dampier. You're looking at Arizona's number 4. Cincinnati's number 5. These guys are scoring. Cincinnati is scoring 31.8 points per game. TCU is at 30.8. So it's a 1 point difference, but it is a separation. So it's not as if I only brought that up because I didn't want to make it seem like TCU isn't scoring, but Cincinnati, Arizona, Utah, these are all teams that have better scoring offenses. And when you start talking about what a team's doing, Utah, they're going to be in a pretty good bowl game. Arizona has a better record. Cincinnati does not. But what's the argument for Hoover over Robertson? Because let's say I take Dampier off. Cool. I'm putting Robertson on next. Because listen, every single argument you're making about Josh Hoover is solely based on stats. Solely based on the stats. And you may say, duh, but okay. Robertson has more yards. Robertson has more touchdowns. Robertson has less interceptions. It's kind of a hard sell to me once you get to that point. Because if you just go from an individual point, and yes, they're both very talented. I don't want to take anything away from them. But Hoover has 13 interceptions, 29 touchdowns. Now, Sawyer, it's not like he's a safe quarterback. He has 12 interceptions, 31 touchdowns. He has 3,681 yards. Hoover has 3,472. That's where things get tricky. Is, yes, if you want to say that maybe Dampier shouldn't have been here, let's take Dampier off. I'm not taking off Fafita and Sorsby. Now, I'm just not there yet, because clearly a lot of, and maybe this should have been my first point. Josh Hoover has 13 interceptions. I don't know why I'm burying the lead. I'm going stat for stat and going Sawyer Robertson. Let's keep it all the way honest here. Josh Hoover has 13 interceptions. Everybody else on this list has 5. Josh Hoover has 13 interceptions. Everybody else on here has 5. And don't tell me, oh, well, Josh Hoover throws more. Being in a pass-happy offense is a gift and a curse. Because, yes, Josh Hoover does throw the ball more. So he is prone to mistakes more often. And you may excuse it. And you may say, well, that's not a fair critique. Okay, but if you lessen his passing attempts, you're also going to lessen his passing yards. Because Josh Hoover has a game worth of more attempts than Fafita. And in this bunch, subtracting Robertson, in this bunch, that's the second most. He has games. You hear the plural? Psst, games. He has multiple games worth of more attempts than Sorsby, than Dampier. And Dampier literally missed a game, right? Like, you're talking about the interceptions and saying that's not fair. You shouldn't hold it against Hoover because of the attempted passes he has. But you also are taking away his strongest case. The biggest thing that works for Hoover is the fact that he has a bunch of yards. I think he has 4 rushing yards. I hate the fact that sacks are taken away from rushing yards. I think that's so dumb. But I don't have the time to go through and break down every sack yardage here. So, yeah, Hoover throws for over 3,400 yards, but that's not possible if he doesn't throw the ball more than anybody else. I say that I'm going to talk about the distinction and things that work against Hoover, and I'm going to try to do that very briefly because turnovers are the reason he's not here. That's the reason he's not a snub. These guys score just as much as Hoover, a little bit less than Hoover, but they have significantly less turnovers. Significantly less turnovers. Let's now move forward and slice ourselves away from the Fafitas, the Sorsbys, the Dampiers, the Robertsons. What impacts the vision, not the vision, but the imperfection. What's the word that I'm looking for here? Perception. What hurts the perception of Josh Hoover? I'll tell you what it is for me. It's turnovers and moments. It's turnovers and moments. Because yes, you rank 4th in the country in passing yards, 4th in the country in touchdowns, passing touchdowns. But you rank 2nd in the country in interceptions. Some of these haven't been his fault. Like I think back to the one of the ones in Arizona State, one of the ones versus the North Carolina one's kind of on the fence. That just seemed unlucky. One against SMU wasn't lucky. Like that was McAllister should have caught that ball. Dwyer should have caught one versus Arizona State. The one against North Carolina was just kind of that was a bad throw, but it was an unfortunate break too. So turnovers exist, but he doesn't have any highlight standout moments. And I pled for this. I did. I pled for this after or before the Houston game. I said, hey, I need you to have a moment. I need you to have your standout moment. I don't feel like you've had your standout moment. This is not revisionist. This is not me reflecting. This is me really only reflecting on the things that I've already said to you. You remember this. Yes. Hoover doesn't have his moment. Hoover doesn't have because I feel like everybody started paying attention after the SMU game, which sucks because I thought the SMU game was fire. I thought he did really good there. But then he came out and laid a dud at the end of the game versus Arizona State. Maybe it's negativity bias where the bad just sticks in your head for a little bit longer. I don't know, maybe. But what I do know is that Hoover's moments against Arizona State versus Kansas State versus Houston after calling him out to have this monster game, these stay in my mind more than a Colorado. Colorado didn't even feel smooth to me. And that may be another big thing, is that TCU's offense has not been consistent all year. That's going to fall on the main source of your offense in Josh Hoover. So if you want to have this conversation about who he is, who he isn't, you got to talk about all of it. And I don't want to speak to the moments for a Fafita or a Sorsby or a Dampier because I watch way more TCU than I do Arizona, Cincinnati, and Utah. I do. I just watch more of them, especially when you're on that coast over there where your games are super late. I'm tired, okay? Josh Hoover does not have the standout moments. And I think if you don't have a vested interest in a player, as far as like, oh, I really want to see them succeed, or you're just evaluating and thinking about a player, most times moments stick out more than stats because you don't know the raw stats off the top of your head, but you do know the moments that just pop. Those 2 turnovers at the end of the Arizona State game, they pop. Those interceptions and those turnovers against Kansas State, they pop. The Cincinnati interceptions, I thought those were bad interceptions. They pop. It doesn't stop me or change me from how I look at Hoover. I still think he's a very talented quarterback. I don't think he's a bad player. I don't think he had a bad season, but those bad moments are the first that I think of. And I think that I'm probably not alone in that. And that would make sense on why he's not there. But also he just turned over the ball too much. But let's push forward and take a brief look because that went a little bit longer than I expected. But let's take a brief look at everybody else, because anybody else you probably would have named made it. They did make it. Let's take a look at that as we continue with Locked On Horned Frogs. Today's episode is brought to you by Aura Frames, and the holidays are officially here, which means gift giving is right here. And if you want to have something meaningful, personal, and guaranteed to get a reaction, Aura Frames is the gift that delivers every time. And it's not just something that you just hand off. You can preload the frame with pictures. So as soon as grandpa opens it, he sees you from his fishing trip, right? He sees that moment you guys had together. As soon as your mom opens it, she sees the baby pictures of you. You know, she has all of that. Like, I think that this is so beautiful. It allows you to not only give something to display, but also gives them the images to display as well. For a limited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling carver matte frames, named #1 by Wirecutter. Using the promo code COLLEGE at checkout. That's auraframes.com, promo code COLLEGE, and the deal is exclusive to listeners. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to make a little extra money, in a couple, and not that long, they'll be having a bunch of college championship games on. That's going to be one that's super interesting. So you can make some money on Tulane versus North Texas. That's going to be a game that's going to decide playoff ramifications. Who's going to be the G5 person and who's going to make money off of it? I can't tell you who the former is, but I hope the latter is you. I hope the latter is you, because you put down a $5 bet, easy, smooth, make a little bit of money, then you go and do something else a little bit more risky. Go to the NFL. Maybe you want to put some live bets on there. We're going to start getting Saturday games for the NFL. I can't wait for that. I love that. That's my thing, right? So NBA is here. Everything. Put some money down on FanDuel right now. Go to FanDuel.com. Go to FanDuel.com and make every moment more while making a little bit of extra cash. As we're closing out today's brief episode of Locked on Horned Frogs, I appreciate you making this your first listen of the day every day. Making all the way to segment 2, I guess. Thank you 2 times. A little bit different, but for me, I expected 5 to 6 players to make it. And I asked you early, hey, close your eyes. I didn't say to close your eyes, but I would have closed mine. Just think about what players you think are going to make it on the all-conference team. I would have thought Eric McAllister, Caleb Elarms, or those would probably been the first 2 that popped to my head. They made first team. Then I would have thought Jamel Johnson and Bud Clark. I would have thought Bud Clark. I would have said Jamel Johnson, because if you would have told me it was 5, if you told me it was 5 people and I didn't know who it was, I would have said McAllister, Elarms, or Jamel Johnson, Hoover. I probably said all 4 of those very confidently. We see I was wrong about that last one. And then I probably would have said, it's 5? It's 5 people, huh? Either Devin Deal or Bud Clark. I would have had all of those on my list. Hoover didn't make it. That would be my 5, and those are the 5. So Elarms, Orr, and McAllister make first team. They made first team all Big 12. And then you look at Johnson, Clark, Deal. They all made second team. So they're all players who you're looking at in a very favorable light. Let me make sure I pull this up. And I think Nnamdi Obiizor ended up being an honorable mention, if I'm not mistaken. So, excuse me. But these are guys who, yeah. So you look at Obiizor, believe it or not, McAllister ended up being a Offensive Player of the Year honorable mention. Where is Obiizor? Is he 13? I saw on the TCU page that he was an honorable mention, but I don't see it in this graphic. So, but I do see Devin Deal. Bud Clark and Jamel Johnson both made second team. Like I said, they had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 DBs. They were 2 of them. Ironically, Houston had 2 of them. Shout out Texas, stand up. 4 of the 5 DBs in that ball game. But for me, Elarms, Orr, and McAllister have been the top players. I think DJ Rogers has been really good. I called him the most efficient because I felt like anytime you've seen him, it was a big play. But Elarms, Orr, tackling machine, been all over the field. He's a guy that you have to always be concerned about. Eric McAllister has been the best receiver in the Big 12 this year. And this is a conference that has Jordan Tyson in it. I'm going to talk about that more next week, so I'm going to be kind of light on him. And, these extra episodes actually have a much shorter time limit, so to speak. So I'm not going to go too long on this one. But Elarms, Orr, flying across the field. He's top 10 in tackles in the country this year. He's leading the conference easily in tackles this year. You see a player who does it all. He flies around the field. He gets down into the line of scrimmage as a blitzer, as a run defender. He's not just a guy who racks up a bunch of tackles. And like, oh, yeah, Elarms, Orr, 17 yards down the field. He'll make some of those. Don't get me wrong, but that's not what he feasts off of. And I think that's the important part. We see players who feast off that, making tackles 7 yards down the field. Elarms Orr makes tackles, and he's impactful in his tackles. I love the fact that I don't see OBI's or here, but I did see it on the TCU page. I've been really trying to look to see if I missed it somewhere. But on TCU's page, they did put up him as an honorable mention. That linebacking duo deserves the credit that they received. They are one of the best in the conference. They deserve that. OBI Zor doesn't get a lot of shine because Elarms Orr takes a lot of it, but same time, that's just how it goes. That's just how it goes sometimes. But yeah, so I thought that this was a very talented team. Jamel Johnston, Thorpe, semifinalist. McAllister, Bolitnikov, semifinalist. I didn't see the linebacker one. I think Caleb Elarms Orr deserved some of it, but I don't think he made it on that list. But yeah, this is a very talented team. I've said it before, talented team, complete team. Just didn't have too many complete games. That's it. But I appreciate you for making this a complete listen, complete day. Go watch some football. Go watch some conference championships. Go watch your Horned Frogs and whatever it is that your sport you want to choose, right? I'm recording this right now. It's 3:30. I'm posted like 5, 6 o'clock. But I'm posted around 6:30, 7 o'clock actually. But go enjoy the soccer team, the volleyball team, men's basketball, all playing today. Big day, big day. In the meantime, in between time, I will not be here tomorrow because there is no game tomorrow, but I will be here on Monday. Excited. Hopefully I get some of the Wi-Fi troubles that I had settled so that I can be to you first thing on Monday. But in the meantime, in between time, until the next time that we hear each other, family, whenever that is, take care, stay blessed. Peace.